welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the show today, blockbuster trades. The Texans, they have been around all the reports heading into the 2025 NFL Draft, around trade-up scenarios, around trades in general. Everybody knows Nick Caserio, he likes to get frisky. He likes to make moves. He likes to make deals. In this show, we're going to be breaking down 5 deals that I could see the Texans making before or during the 2025 NFL Draft. But speaking of the draft, are you ready? This is draft week. We are just under 72 hours away from the Texans making a selection in the 2025 NFL Draft. If you're excited, go down and hit that thumbs up icon. My boss challenged me. He said, hey, you haven't had a vid in the past 2 weeks to get 500 likes? Yeah, let's prove them wrong. Let's get to 500 likes on this video. If you're ready to go, hit that thumbs up icon as we get into our very first Texans blockbuster trade. It's a trade up. Trading up for Kelvin Banks Jr. from the University of Texas. This has been a hot rumor around the NFL draft streets. Schefter's talked about it. Daniel Jeremiah's talked about it. And today in an article, Albert Breer mentioned it. This is what Breer had to say. Another team that has at least started sniffing around on a trade-up, and that's the Houston Texans. It's no secret that Houston needs offensive line help. With the possibility that Campbell, Membou, and Banks are all gone inside the top 10, the next group of linemen could get moved up on the board a bit, and the Texans have 2 teams in front of them, the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, that could take O-line. I could see where that sets up for a short move up, potentially to land somebody like a Gray Zabel, or if they're feeling froggy and include 2026 picks, maybe a more significant move up for Kelvin Banks. One player I've heard the Texans have done plenty of work on is Donovan Jackson. So a little pat on my back for the Donovan Jackson hype. I've been talking about him for about 2 months here on the program, that if the Texans stay at 25, I do believe Donovan Jackson will be the pick if he's still on the board there at 25. But trading up, and the reason why I've said this the entire time is I think Kelvin Banks will be gone. And Adam Schefter even said yesterday, expect the Texans and the Eagles to be active during the 2025 NFL Draft in terms of trades. And the reason why I said Donovan Jackson is more than likely the pick is because I do believe Kelvin Banks Jr. will be a pick. He's not making out of the teens, in my opinion. He's not making it to the 20s in a draft where he's arguably, the 3rd, 4th, 5th best offensive lineman in this draft class. I don't see him making it all the way to 25. So if the Texans want him, they're going to have to go up and get him. And they have been reported to have a ton of interest in Kelvin Banks Jr. And Breer mentioned adding some of those 2026 picks, which I agree with. And I talked with our Cowboys host, Tom Downey, and this is the trade we did to move up. And I know it looks like a lot, but mentioned you're moving up from 25 all the way up to 12 to get one of the best offensive tackles in this draft class. So this is how the draft day trade would work. The Texans would get pick 12 from the Dallas Cowboys, their first-round pick. We would send over our first-round pick, pick 25, our second-round pick in this year's draft, and then a second-round pick in 2026. It could be either be our own, or we have to remember, from Laramie Tunsil, we have a 2nd and a 4th-round pick in 2026. So this could be ours, or this could be Washington's pick, depending on however they want to dole that one out. But this is the trade idea that I came up with for the Houston Texans. So let me know down in the comment section. Would you make this trade? Would you trade up all the way to 12 up with the Dallas Cowboys if that meant the Texans get their number 1 O-line target in Kelvin Banks? Let me know down in the comment section. This is going to be a pinned comment on this video. So if you get it with that ad break here, all good. Scroll on down. Let me know. Is that too rich for your blood? Would you move up, or do you think the Texans are good at 25? Let me know your thoughts down below. Next up, I'm going to go with some players now that the Texans could look at, because Adam Schefter dropped an article talking about a ton of players that could be traded during the draft. And one name that was very interesting to me that stuck out like a sore thumb, George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I talked with our Steelers host, Jack Sperry. He said he doesn't view Pickkins as somebody who is firmly on the trade block. It would have to be a, trade that kind of blows them out of the water. I don't know if that's a 1st or a 2nd round pick for Pickkins, but there's a reason why he's kind of on that trade block, right? He's entering the last year of that rookie contract, and it's no secret that Pickens has had some trouble off the field. He comes with a lot of baggage. He comes with a lot of drama. He comes with a lot of concerns to not only on the field effort, but in the locker room and how he carries himself. Now, I will say, if there's any team that I think can work with a guy like this, it is a DeMeco Ryans-led Houston Texans team, because we saw that they have no room for BS. And I don't think Pickens is that bad off the field. Maybe I'm totally misreading it. Maybe I'm, giving him the benefit of the doubt a little bit too much. But, I mean, when you have numbers like George Pickens has had the past 3 years, outstanding, right? This past year, a down year, only 900 yards. But the year prior, 2023, over 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns, only 2 drops, 18.1 yards per catch for Pickens. He also missed 3 games in 2024. I think the Texans, looking at George Pickens, I don't know if they have enough or feel comfortable doling out enough, because not only do you have to trade for him, you'll more than likely have to give him a contract extension as well, because that's part of the reason why there's a little bit of a tiff, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers just traded for DK Metcalf. They just gave him a contract extension. Pickens is like, all right, what am I over here? Mincemeat? Like, what can I get? Throw me a freaking bone here. And he's looking at the guy on the other side, DK Metcalf, getting paid. Do the Steelers feel comfortable giving George Pickens a contract extension? If not, I could see a team trading for him. And like I said earlier, you have to remember the Texans have some extra draft capital in 2026. So I don't know if this would blow them out of the water, but this would be my trade offer to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm giving them a 5th-round pick in this year's draft, and I'm giving them a 2nd-round pick in next year's draft. And I know Steelers fans are probably thinking that's not nearly enough for George Pickens. And I think Texans fans would say, oh, this is way too much to give up for George Pickens when you have to give him a contract. Usually that's a good trade idea when both sides are unhappy. As Michael Scott said, there's 4 different, options in this scenario. One of them being a lose-lose. And maybe a lose-lose is best for everybody in this trade scenario. But I think the Texans, I don't think it's likely that they trade for George Pickens. I don't think it's likely the Steelers trade away George Pickens. But just a thought in the back of your mind, because Nick Caserio, he's a wild man that could do anything during the 2025 NFL Draft. We have some more draft day trades to talk about, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsor over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. I love Prize Picks. My producer, Loco Lopez, loves him some Prize Picks for good reason. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. And this is the lineup I have for this game coming up tomorrow. Jalen Green, I know he had an awful game 1. I think he bounces back. Give me the more on his points at 18.5. For somebody who scored as well as he does, I hope if the Rockets have any chance to win, he needs to get more points in this series. Steven Adams was a monster in game 1. Give me the more on points, rebounds, and assists combined. 12. Yeah, I think Steven Adams can do that. He was awesome. I want him to get more minutes in game 2. Jabari Smith, 0.5 3-point field goals made. He just has to make 1 3-pointer. Jabari Smith, he was perfect from the field in game 1. Give me that. Brandon Pajimski, give me 1.5 turnovers. I think the Texans. I think the Rockets are going to turn up the heat here. I could see them forcing a ton of turnovers, and one of the guys who can do that is right here, Amen Thompson. Give me 1.5 block shots. Give me the more on that. I think he's going to step up his defense in game 2. You can use my picks. Go against them. Just do it over on Prize Picks today. And today, the day I'm filming this, it's also Taco Tuesday. I saw they have a stat projection cut down for Ja Morant. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. So go check it out today. Download the Prize Picks app and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So get started today with Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, let's talk offensive line, because that's the biggest area of concern, right? If they're going to trade up for Banks, maybe they don't do that move, but maybe they add another offensive lineman in another way, in Evan Neal, the New York Giants offensive lineman, the former first-round pick who has been nothing short of a bust, I would say, for New York so far in his young NFL career. A former Alabama prospect, has the size, 6'7", 340 pounds, is a mammoth of a human being. And maybe the Texans look to add a player like an Evan Neal, somebody who, can come in and help you out. And maybe you can, add some more youth to this offensive line, some more, competition as we get closer to, training camp, to the preseason, everything like that. Evan Neal, over the past 3 seasons, the PFF grades haven't been fantastic. Past year is arguably his best, right? 61.2 overall, an 80.8 run blocking grade, 49.6 pass blocking grade, 2 sacks. And now it is also to be said, Evan Neal, they've tried him out at guard or tried him out at tackle for the past 3 seasons. If the Texans traded for Evan Neal, I 100% believe they would move him into guard and try to play him at that right or left guard spot. I think that would make more sense for Evan Neal. I don't think he has the foot quickness, and I don't think he has the pass protection, skills to play a tackle in the NFL. Maybe you move him into guard, be a big mauler. I don't know, kind of like Mekhi Becton. I could see a trade like this happening. And I talked to our Giants host, Marshall Green, about this possibility of a trade, and it was funny because he was like, yeah, I don't think it would cost a lot to get Evan Neal. So this is my fun trade idea for the Giants and Texans around Evan Neal. Let me know what you think about it. It's actually no picks kind of being taken away from the Texans. There's just a pick swap here. So the Texans would get Evan Neal and the Giants' 4th round pick, and the Giants would just receive the Texans' 3rd round pick. So they're just moving up basically like 20 spots in the NFL draft, get another top 100 pick, and they get off of Evan Neal, who I think they could be possibly cutting this offseason anyways. I think it's a win-win here. The Texans, all you do is you move back, like I said, 20 spots, and you gain Evan Neal in the process. I'm okay with that deal. Let's talk about another offensive lineman. This one not named by Adam Schefter, but I was talking to our Raiders Report host, Mitchell Renz, and he does think it's a possibility that Dylan Parham gets dealt at some point this offseason. He's somebody who has, started the past 3 years for the Raiders, and he'll be in the final year of his rookie contract here in 2025. This is his 3rd regime with the Raiders, with Pete Carroll and John Spytek, right? He's been with John Gruden. He's been with Josh McDaniels. He's been with Antonio Pierce. Now he's with Carroll and Spytek. I mean, it's insane. Could he be another option for the Texans if they miss out on an offensive lineman in the draft, though? I'm talking like maybe they draft somebody in round 1, and then they go to another position in round 2 or round 3, and there's no offensive lineman that they absolutely love. Maybe there's a huge run on it, and you have to go into day 3 looking at maybe trading for a guy like a Dylan Parham. This past year, 15 games played, 5 sacks allowed for the Raiders, and they have a new regime in there, and I could see the Raiders also building up their offensive line just a little bit. This might be a little bit of a low ball offer for Dylan Parham, but if they are really trying to get off of him, if they're not going to start him this year and give him a contract extension, could you get him for a 5th round pick? That would be my asking price, a 2025 5th round pick for Dylan Parham, just straight up in this draft. The Raiders, they can add another pick, add some more youth to this team. The Texans get some more help on the interior for the offensive line. Now, we've talked about O-line a ton. I want to switch over to the defensive line because the Texans are rumored to have a ton of interest in defensive linemen in this year's draft. Tyree Wilson was one of the names mentioned by Adam Schefter, another player from the Las Vegas Raiders, and this fit I absolutely love. This actually might be my favorite trade idea that I'm going to do in today's show because Tyree Wilson, a former 1st round pick, I think was just taken a little bit early for where he was at his collegiate career and health-wise. He came into the NFL with being a little bit banged up, having some injuries. And I also think the Raiders haven't used him to his full potential and haven't used him correctly in the NFL. I think he would be a great fit with the Texans defensive line because I do believe he's been misused awfully so far in the NFL. People try to use him as an edge rusher. That's not Tyree Wilson. He's not going to give you the speed. He might be able to set the edge a little bit, but he's not going to be a speed rusher from the edge. With his size, I think he would be a great fit for a defensive tackle. Maybe even move him in sometimes to play a little nose tackle. I think he's more fit to play the 1 and the 3 technique than he is the 3 and the 5 technique. That's just my opinion. I think him as a full-time defensive tackle where he can really use his size, use his strength, use his ability, I think that's where Tyree Wilson could fit the best. Why not add him to this Texans defensive line that's arguably one of the best in the entire National Football League? You put Tyree Wilson next to a guy like Will Anderson Jr. and Neal Hunter, then you have Danico Autry next to him. I think that D-line would be absolutely ferocious. And this is my trade idea for Tyree Wilson. If they truly are trying to get off of him, the Raiders have a ton of picks in this year's draft class, right? And I talked about Dylan Parham giving away a 5th for him. I think Tyree Wilson's value is closer to a 4th round pick. And the Texans don't have a 4th round pick in this year's draft. But as I said earlier, you have to remember that Laramie Tunsil trade. The Texans have an extra 2nd and a 4th round pick in 2026. If the Raiders are trying to move off of him, if they, maybe draft some edge rusher in the top 10, I could see them looking to move on from Tyree Wilson. So I'm going to give them a 2026 4th round pick. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are always open to talk some Texans football. And make sure you hit that subscribe button. We will be breaking down every single pick for the Houston Texans in this year's draft. Every move the Texans make, every step they take, I'll be watching them, and you will be watching me if you hit that subscribe button, breaking it all down for you. Go down. It's 100% free. If you love the Texans, you know what to do. Go down and hit that sub.